So this week for me, what was new in the DCU at least was Shazam #1. I got a chance to read Shazam #1. I really like the work that Mark Waid and Dan Mora have been doing on World's Finest, what I've read so far. So I figured I'd check out Shazam #1. And it was a fun book. Is it I highly recommend? We'll see. I might go ahead and read, issues 2 and up later down the line. But this one was kind of just to set up, the character. He's very similarly written to the way he was in the movies recently. He's just a kid. He has a big cave. He has these gods that, gave him these powers. And he's just trying to find out what to do with them. Meanwhile, I guess kind of spoiler for the end of the issue, one of these guys just does not like what he's doing with his powers. I don't know if it's the guy that takes over. Something takes over Shazam. Now he's going by Captain as well, basically. And he ends up just, telling the little kid off, telling the news crew off that's filming him. And he has no idea what he's just done. But it's not looking good press-wise for Shazam. So I'm at least going to have to check out issue 2 on this. I did enjoy it. And Dan Moore's art is always top-notch, of course. I said it before, I'll say it again. I think, he is probably the top-rated artist DC has right now. Maybe Daniel Sampere is giving him a run for his money. But Dan Mora, I'll probably read his books while he's making them for sure. Next up, we got The Unstoppable Doom Patrol. I believe this is a 6-issue series. I only got a chance to read the first one. So far, this book, it's not too bad. It's actually bringing in a couple new characters while having a lot of familiar faces, especially I don't have the biggest background in Doom Patrol. I watched all of the HBO Max series that I really enjoyed. Highly recommend if you haven't had a chance to check that out. That being said, they definitely, I feel like they knew their audience coming into this, watched that Doom Patrol TV series, and was relatively new to the comic because most of the characters in this are written just like they were in the series. Cliff has, Robot Man has his same background, Negative Man, and Elasti-Woman. They pretty much all talk like they do in the series, and they didn't really differentiate, like there wasn't hundreds of issues needed to read to catch up with the characters. So I did enjoy that. I really enjoyed how Jane is all of a sudden the chief of the crew. I thought at first, Niles Calder was inside her mind, but they're actually he is introduced. I forgot. I actually did read issue 2, come to think of it. That's what happens when you read all this stuff together. So Niles Calder in issue 2, he's trying to kind of reassert himself with the team. But Jane, as Kay Chalice, actually, she is the chief and is asserting herself to Jane to take over the body and run Doom Patrol. And, Kay's just like, no, we brought you back on to help out, but you're not going to run this team. I'm the chief now. So I really enjoyed that dynamic. I enjoyed, what little bit of we got these new characters, as you can see on cover #1 here. I think I'm going to end up reading this whole 6-issue series. I did enjoy the first couple of issues. Next up, we got The Swamp Thing. I read issues 1 and 2. I wanted to see what this new Swamp Thing was all about. I believe his name is Levi Kamei. Hopefully I'm pronouncing somewhat right. I saw him pop up in the Titans run I've been enjoying from Tom Taylor. So I wanted to get a little bit more background on this new Swamp Thing character. And so far, it's fine. They're doing, they're slowly weeding you into this universe. I think there's 16 or 18 issues of this, though. Will I read that many? Yeah, we'll see, because I do really like Mike Perkins on the art. He did, Captain America with Ed Brubaker way back when. He did the Stand adaptation for Marvel Comics, so I've always liked Mike Perkins as an artist. I haven't read too much for Brom B. I've heard he's done some decent work on Batman and stuff like that. And I do really like the character Swamp Thing. That being said, this is a kind of a new character with Levi instead of Alec Holland, so I'm curious to see if I need to read something else to see what happened to Alec Holland, or they kind of subtly explain it through the 16 or 18 issues of this maxi series. But yeah, I'm probably going to give it a few more issues, but I did enjoy, especially in the art department, I enjoyed what I've looked at so far. All right, next up, just came out Tuesday, was the conclusion of Titans Beast World. It's issue 5. I was actually surprised it only went 5 issues. I did not know it wasn't going to go further than that when I, first started reading issue 5 here. So to see all of these plot threads and storylines come to an all of a sudden stop, I was a little bit surprised. But that being said, I feel like this, at first I was kind of reading this as a big event, but now I kind of feel like this is just a supplement for the Titans book, which is also fine. It is what it is. because there's a lot of stuff going on that basically, if you're not reading the Titans book and you're only trying to read this, you're going to lose like half of the story. But basically, in the last issue, we found out Dr. Hate was actually Raven's dark side that usually is contained in the jewel in her forehead, but broke out. So the main crux of the story is Raven having to fight her dark side, basically. And, it's kind of a losing battle, more or less, until, her friends show up, like Starfire shows up and turns the tides. And then the other main thing that's going on is they're trying to get those spores out of the rest of Earth, and those spores also represent Garfield Logan Beast Boy. Now, there was like a couple hints dropped in previous issues of Titans where, like, oh, he can turn himself into like a school of fish or a swarm of bees or whatever, and he just loses a little bit of himself. So if one fish dies or a bee gets swatted or whatever, he loses a bit of himself. Now, obviously, if he's a giant Starro-like monster, gets killed, and then these spores are out loose, there's got to be a little bit of part of him in these spores. So they finally realized that. Now the quest remains, like, is there enough of them left? And the answer was no, but luckily Detective Chimp was on the case. He's kind of like almost the MVP of this issue, because he realizes there was a piece of that Garo arm in space frozen, so he uses Cyborg to go get it, and they sort of save Beast Boy. It's kind of slightly up in the air, but he's talking again at least. And the main spoiler, which is big, huge spoiler warning here if you're actually wanting to read this. At the end, we think everything's okay with Raven. She defeated her dark side, but then they cut to an epilogue with that Jewel talking, and of course it had to be this way, that Jewel is now the prison for the Raven we all know and love, and this Dr. Hate awful version of Raven is now guised as the good Raven to the Titans. So who knows what's going to go ahead and happen there. And there's a whole subplot with Amanda Waller, too, trying to use her political pull to turn America against the Titans. And somehow now she owns the Hall of Justice and all that fun stuff. And I think they're also tying in the Tom King, Wonder Woman stuff, too. Anyway, let's move on to my pick of the week. And I like this read so much. I ended up reading, like, a whole bunch of issues of it. So, World's Finest. I read issues 6 through 11. So the story in this one was there is a sidekick for Superman now that is introduced, and basically with that sidekick, he is from a different universe, but he was shuttled there and had to watch his world die. Basically, it's kind of sounded familiar to Superman, I'm sure. So this kid all of a sudden starts to develop powers because of the parallel universe sun, aka the universe that this Batman and Superman are in. So Batman insists that, Superman take this kid under his wing because they have a lot in common. So as the story progresses, they have to fight, this other character. And then he's ended up, Joker gets involved. And you know how much Joker likes sidekicks based on the cover I picked to display here. And of course, fighting bad guys doesn't go well. Eventually, like the rocket ship that brought this new character over ends up getting damaged, and in that, anything that came with that rocket ship gets like caught out of the vibrational pull that was established in Crisis on Infinite Earths way back when, basically. So this kid can't spend the rest of his life on this planet. Now he gets randomly thrown into another planet. We find out, spoilers, that this character all along is going to grow up to be Magog from Kingdom Come, which I thought was really awesome. So that makes me ask a question. Are the Superman and the Batman in World's Finest going to turn out to be the Superman and the Batman in Kingdom Come? I guess that was, are we supposed to read Kingdom Come as, the definite future for the DC characters? Yeah, you could answer that answer too. But I really enjoyed this read. There was a lot going on, and it's just going to keep building and going too, because I know I've seen covers to later issues with Magog and Kingdom Come Superman and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to what Mark Waid is going to do next with all of these characters. I had a blast reading this. This is so far since I've re-upped the DC Universe app, this has been my top pick almost every time. But if you guys have any other picks for me, definitely let me know. I've been really enjoying the DC app so far.